Hello, beautiful beings. Thank you for joining me in this video. What I'm about to share has been pretty tender and sensitive for me, but I knew that at some point there would come a time where I was meant to share what happened last year in my personal life. Some of you know some of this information and some of you don't, but last year in March, my partner and I decided that we would no longer be in partnership. And if you are a local in Sedona, you know that finding places to live is not an easy task. And so I knew that at some point, obviously, it would be best for me to move out of the house and not live with him anymore. Even though that really wasn't a big deal to me, there were some circumstances placed upon the situation by other people that made it very difficult. And I know I'm being just a little bit cryptic, but I don't want to speak poorly about anyone. I just want to share what happened. So, So in the middle of March, we ended the partnership and I started to explore other living options. And there was just nothing. Sedona with Airbnb, there is a housing crisis here, and unless you're a millionaire, it can be really challenging to find a place to live. So I kind of knew that I was going to have to be patient. I knew that this might take a while. And in my mind, I thought, maybe a couple months, That was my definition of a while. So I just, pulled up my big girl panties and decided that I was going to do what I could, but I was also going to wait and be patient because I didn't want a transition space. Moving out of a house, you have stuff, and I didn't want to move into somebody's bedroom and, rent somebody's bedroom in somebody's house. And that's what a lot of people were suggesting to me. Susie, this person has a bedroom available, you can rent their space. And it was like they just didn't understand that I had a fully operational office and video studio. I had all my video equipment, I have stuff. And I see clients mostly online, but I see clients and I need a space that's going to work for what I do and for my service in the world. And so I knew that required some patience. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to be patient. And if any of you know me, patience is not my strongest virtue. It's not my strongest quality. I'm a mission-oriented, driven, highly motivated, let's go get this done type of person. Sitting back and waiting was not at the time in my repertoire of expertise. I happily report to you now that I am much better with being patient. Part of that process for me was going into my womb. Because most of my life I had been operating from my masculine energy, I really had to cultivate being more in my feminine nature, that patience, that trusting, that waiting, that cultivating the container for what I want and allowing it to come in. And I'm telling you, those 25 codes of creation that I brought to you through video a couple years ago, I really had to put those in practice. So a couple things that I experienced was there were some people making my life very challenging and making that living situation specifically very challenging. So on one hand, I knew I kind of had to wait and master that situation. And on the other hand, knowing it wasn't healthy for me to stay there, but that if I was going to wait for my perfect space, I had to be patient. And so I took on this like ninja, I don't want to say persona, but this ninja energy of knowing what to say, knowing what not to say, knowing how to navigate what I was doing kind of under the radar. You know, I went from literally sharing everything in my life with Max to sharing pretty much nothing, because if I would have shared with him what I was doing, it could have put me in jeopardy. I could have been kicked out of the house. I don't know if that would have happened, but it could have. And so I had to kind of fly under the radar, and it was a really bizarre situation. And it was one of those things where it was like, how did I end up here? This doesn't make sense for what I've been creating in my life, for who I am. How did I end up here? And yes, there were moments where I felt like a victim, but mostly I was just curious, like, this doesn't make sense. So there was a time where I was speaking with my mentor, and I was like, how did this happen? Why is this happening? And he was like, because you're strong enough to go through it. And I was like, well, I like that answer, that I'm strong, but I don't like that answer. That's not good enough for why I'm experiencing this. So it's just this really strange set of circumstances. Thank you, Carrie. Just this really strange set of circumstances that I have really had to figure out how to navigate with grace, how to be smart about it, how to be still loving to my now housemate. And I have, Max is a beautiful person. He's kind, he's loving and generous. It wasn't that hard to be loving to him, but also there was anger that I was dealing with because of how the partnership ended. It was abrupt. I didn't see it coming, and it wasn't my fault. And so there was anger. And so another thing I really experienced through that was not taking responsibility for what wasn't mine. Upon reflection, I realized that in the partnership, I took on all the responsibility. And that's a pattern of mine. It's an old pattern from many lifetimes. I had to stop because it would have broken me. It was like, I cannot take on responsibility that's not mine anymore. I can't do it, and I won't do it, and I choose not to do it. And so I got really clear about what was my responsibility and what was not. And so that was a powerful lesson as part of all of this. Another powerful lesson was gratitude. It was really hard to go through what I went through. And there were times where I was not feeling grateful, where probably it wasn't that easy for my friends to be around me at times. And one of my friends called me out, and she said, Susie, you need to start working with gratitude. And she was 100% right. And I started working with gratitude, and I started generating and cultivating gratitude in my everyday life for the little things, for the big things, for whatever. I just really worked it. I worked gratitude hard. I worked it so hard. And when I really started to generate that flow of gratitude, things started to move, things started to flow. And I can't say enough about gratitude. You guys just do it. Start being grateful for what you have, right? It's really powerful, this gratitude thing. So I'm super grateful to my friend for calling me out on what I needed to change, because it really made all the difference while I was going through it. And look, there were times where I was, just weeping and sobbing and distraught. It felt like I was in a pit without any way out. It literally felt like there is no solution to this. But I went into gratitude anyway. And I was like, thank you that this is happening. Thank you that I'm feeling these emotions. Thank you that I'm going through this. And what enabled me to do that was because I know this journey. I call it the rebirthing journey. I knew that I was rebirthing myself into a much more expanded, much shinier, brighter version of myself, a much more powerful version of myself. And in order to get to that next version of myself, I had to go through the rebirthing process, which takes you down into the depths. It takes you down into the shadow. It takes you down into the hardest experiences of your life. But when you come through that birthing canal, you have the most expanded, powerful energy, and life is better than you could have ever imagined. Because I've gone through this process of rebirthing for myself so many times, I knew exactly what was happening. I didn't know how long it would take. I didn't know all of the details of what would unfold. I didn't know the outcome, but I knew the journey, and I knew just to be with it and to bring in gratitude. Another thing that I learned from this process was humility. Because I teach about creation, I have some knowledge about the nuances of creation. It's different than law of attraction. But I have this, I don't know, maybe it's a pride or maybe it's an ego, something or other around the process of creation that like, I know what's up kind of feeling. And this was totally unexpected. This hit me over the head, punched me in the gut, slammed me on the ground. Didn't see it coming, total surprise, and it brought me to my knees. And I thought to myself, like, I didn't create this. How is this happening? I didn't create this. And the distinction was that there were things that were not my responsibility and things that were. And in the overall perspective, I created that I ended up in that experience, but I didn't create what people said to me and what people did to me and the difficulty that was projected onto me, the energy that was projected onto me by other people. I didn't create that, and I wasn't responsible for that. And it brought up a lot of compassion for the people that I see around me, people who maybe are stuck, who don't know how to navigate the journey, who are in victimhood. And I thought about the friends that had gone through difficult experiences that maybe I had judged a little bit. And it brought forth a lot more compassion for those challenging experiences, because life happens. We don't have control over how life happens, over what happens sometimes in life. Yes, we are powerful creators. And yes, we do have the power and ability to design and craft our lives. But there are things that happen in life that we can't ever see coming, and they're not our responsibility, and they're not because of something that we've done. And that was a huge awareness for me, because in my life I've taken over responsibility for things that aren't mine. And so when the challenging things happened, I would just take responsibility for everything. And it really helped me get clear that some things are not my responsibility. And yes, I'm a powerful creator, but I don't create how other people treat me. And that's pretty big because, I teach. You teach people how to treat you, right? That's something that I've taught. And that's true to a degree through boundary setting and, bringing love to a situation and things like that. But in the end, you can't control what people say or do to you. And so that was big for me also, because throughout this situation, even though people were treating me unfairly, I wanted to treat them with love. I didn't want to bring anger or bring upset. I wanted to bring love. And I didn't always do it, but that was my practice as I was going through it, to be grateful for these people, to be sending them loving energy. And it was hard. It was hard because some of the things were, just really upsetting and unfair and all those things. But that was my practice, was to bring love and compassion. Because they didn't know. They didn't know what they were doing. They just thought that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. Because, the conditioning and the programming of society. And I wish I could give you more detail, but I really don't feel like it's fair to speak about people without their, ability to stand up and defend themselves or whatever they want to do about it. Just looking at my notes here. The other concept that I really worked with was acceptance, because I wasn't suffering about this for a while. I was obviously upset at everything that had happened, and so there was a resistance to what was happening. And when I finally dropped into acceptance, like, yeah, this is happening, there's nothing I can do about it. When I finally dropped into acceptance, some of that suffering dissolved. And that was powerful. I never realized how powerful acceptance is until I really embodied it. And then finally, in December, we get to some good stuff. So, December 11th, I went to a place here that we call a birthing cave. And before I go in, I always ask permission to enter and pay respect to the ancestors and everything. And before I went in, my guidance, the ancestors, I don't know exactly who, they said, you are about to go through a portal. If you go through this portal, you will never be able to come back and you won't be the same ever again. Do you want to go through the portal? Well, of course I said yes. So I went through, and then when I came out of the cave, I did feel like something significant had shifted, and I didn't yet know what it was. But probably about a week later, it was in between my birthday and Christmas, so it was probably about around solstice, actually. I got a call from a friend. He said, Susie, one of the units next to me has opened up. Would you like information about it? The landlords came to me and asked if they know anyone. And I was like, yes, sign me up. So I called my now landlord, right away. I came to see the place that day, put in my application right away, and I ended up getting this place. Now, the reason I got this place was because a beautiful, powerful woman who lived here actually passed away. She passed away December 11th. So the reason I now have an affordable place to live is literally because someone passed away, and I now have the honor and privilege and blessing of being in this space. So I am grateful for my ability to navigate this journey with deeper knowing. In other words, instead of being reactive, and don't get me wrong, I had some reactions, but instead of living from a space of reactivity for 10 months, I knew on a deeper level what was happening, and I knew that I needed to be patient. And so that's what I did. And it has been the most intense dark night of the soul that I've had in years. And I share my story because I know a lot of you had a really difficult last year, 2019. And I can say that those difficulties will continue unless you do your inner work and you find the deeper why. Why is this happening? Why am I going through this? What does my soul want to lead me into? And that's the question I was asking myself. What is my soul leading me into? It started out with, why is this happening? And then it turned into, what is my soul leading me into? Because that's what I knew was going on. It wasn't something that was happening to me. It was something that was happening for me. And my soul was leading the way because I live my life according to my soul alignments and my soul mission. Because that's first for me always. That was the question I was asking. What is my soul leading me into? And I don't know the answer yet. I know that this year for me is going to be huge and very expansive. And I'm excited to share whatever it's going to be as it comes up. You know that I'll share it with you guys. But the point I'm getting at is, if you play the victimhood role, if you don't want to look at yourself on deeper levels, then your soul will continue to lead you into situations to show you where it wants to go. And your soul always wants expansion. It always wants growth for you as a human. And so we have to look at those deeper things that happen within us. We have to look at those things in our lives from the lens of, what is my soul leading me into? Not, why is this happening to me? And you can feel the difference. When you ask those two questions, just try it with me now. Think of a situation in your life that's happening and ask, why is this happening to me? And then think of that same situation and ask, what is my soul leading me into through this situation? And you can feel the difference. That second question is much more expansive. It's much more full of light. It's much more radiant. It's much more powerful, because then you're asking the right question. And so I would invite you in this year of 2020 to take a deep breath and to ask the right questions. What is my soul leading me into? If you need help with that, you know that I'm here. And I offer personalized retreats, and this is something I haven't talked about much or advertised much, but I offer 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, or 4 day personalized retreats. And I call them rebirthing retreats because they are designed to take you deeper into yourself, help you understand why certain things are happening in your life, and how you can transcend them, and how you can understand them in a way that will lead you into your transformation and expansion. So if that's something you want or you're interested in, go to susiebeiler.com/Sedona-rebirthing-retreats, and you'll get all the information you need there. And if you are drawn to these retreats, but you're not sure if they're for you, or you're not sure how many days you want to do it, contact me. We'll set up a 15-minute Zoom. I'll guide you through it. We'll figure out if those retreats are for you or not. And you don't have to be a Sedona local. You can be anywhere in the world. Come here and we'll get you deeper into your transformation and take you through your rebirthing. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Just going to check my notes here real quick to see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, it was perfect because it felt this morning like, okay, I'm finally ready to do this Facebook Live. And I received an email from Neil Donald Walsh from Conversations with God. And the email today said, it is okay to be at a place of struggle. Struggle is just another word for growth. So accept that there's struggle in your life, and then the growth will come out of it. Much love, you guys. Mwah.